Hello enemies and book lovers, my name is Ash and welcome or welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing a review for Night Shift. I'm pretty much going to be going story by story as quick as possible, telling you what it's about and how I felt about it. It's going to be pretty vague because there's 20 stories in this and that's a lot of stories. You know, maybe I should just put it there. Maybe? Is that a good? This is my bedroom. I am literally on my bed right now and this is my little headboard. There's Bast and there's Anubis. Night Shift by Stephen King is Stephen King's first short story collection. I think he released these books over time and eventually they just put them all into one. So that is what Night Shift is. You may have heard of a few of these stories before. A lot of them have been adapted into movies. The first story is Jerusalem's Lot. This is actually, I think, a prequel to Salem's Lot, I believe. This is set in 1850. I think it's following the main character Charles and he inherits the house. He gets to this place and finds out that a lot of the people are telling him not to go to Jerusalem's Lot and stay away from Salem's Lot. It's just a precursor to Salem's Lot, and I have read Salem's Lot, so it was kind of cool to read kind of like what happens before the events of it. I do remember liking the ending of it. It was kind of like it's like an open-ended one where you kind of know what might happen at the end of it. I actually really liked that. It was fine overall. I'm not going to rate these because they are so short that I don't think it's really fair to rate this, but I did like it. It's just like, you know, it wasn't the best story. I think reading Salem's Lot first actually made this short story better. It was fine. It was a fine story. The second story is Graveyard Shift. The main character's name is Hall. He has the job of a picker machine operator. He's designated to clean a basement that hasn't been touched in 12 years. So he's told to go down to this basement. A lot of the people that are also helping him are like, I'm not going down there. Hell no. I believe that Stephen King has a fear of rats, which makes a lot of sense because in a lot of his stories, the first two of these, I think, included rats in them. 1922, which is one of my favorite short stories from him, also has a lot of rats in it, so I can understand why maybe he integrates it often. Personally, I've owned rats before. They are very intelligent and amazing creatures, but obviously when they're out in the streets and stuff, they're kind of gross, I guess. This story has a lot more gore. It has like that eerie sensation of like what's about to come. He has to go into this basement and as he's walking into it, it's like you have this sensation of just like anxiety as he's walking into it. Like I said, a bit gory. It was creepy. It was very creepy. The third story is Night Surf. This is following a Bernie and like a bunch of his friends. They're on like a beach and this is actually, I think, following around the same time as The Stand by Stephen King. I have read The Stand as well. It is so far my favorite thing that I've read by Stephen King, and this one I liked literally just because I love The Stand so much. I just enjoyed it because of the aspect of The Stand. I just miss that book. I will reread it one day, not anytime soon because it's over 1,000 pages, but it's a bunch of kids on a beach. They talk about Captain Trips, and that's the only real thing that we mention of The Stand that I recall from. There is a little bit of a disturbing part to it, and I don't know, I just liked the aspect of it. They think they're like safe, but are they really safe? Literally all I wrote in my notes was, I like any type of story in this world. Could have read lots more, honestly. I would have loved to see The Stand written in other people's point of views and like different people around the world. That would have been really cool. Story number 4 is I Am the Doorway. This is a main character, Arthur, who is an ex-astronaut. He went to space and things occurred while he was there, I suppose. He's back on Earth. He's dealing with a few issues now, and he tells his friend Richard that he knows of a boy that he buried but he didn't kill, and Richard is just like, what are you talking about? They have a discussion and then he goes and tells him, let's go and see where the body is. Things happen. It's kind of like a sci-fi-esque, which I was surprised about. It's a bit weird. Not that I didn't like it at all. I think it just went over my head a little bit. I'm just like, what is happening in this story? I think I got it, but I also didn't get it. I believe that there's like a image of like a hand with eyes on it and this is what it's associated with. I think I just blanked out when I read this because I don't even remember that at all. So I think it's my own fault. It's probably my own fault. Number 5, The Mangler. This one, I've heard a lot of people say they liked it. I think I did like it, but also like I didn't at the same time. This follows the main character Hunton and he is a like investigator or something like that. This one was actually pretty gory and I really liked the gore aspect of it. The beginning was kind of terrifying to me because I hate like machinery accidents, and this is a story about Hunton kind of discovering something happening with this laundry press machine. It's like something that flattens and steams laundry, and it becomes like possessed and like starts to like off people, and it's actually pretty gross, and there are things in real life that have happened with machinery, so that terrifies me. But it was so weird. Like, I know Stephen King likes to just make things like alive and possessed, but it's just so weird. The ending made me laugh, but like it was still good. I think it was really well done. I really liked the beginning and just like the creepy gore aspect of it I really liked. It was just a weird story overall, but you know what? It's Stephen King. Of course it's gonna be weird. I just think that having possessed like an ironer is just it doesn't sound as scary as I think it should be. That's my opinion. 6 is Boogeyman. This is actually one of my favorites. I think I have about 3 or 4 favorites, and this is one of them. This is Dr. Harper, who is talking to the main character, Lester Billings. I think Dr. Harper is a therapist, and he's talking to Lester. Lester, the client, came in and says that 3 of his children were killed by the Boogeyman, and we slowly listen to the tale throughout the story of how this happened. He also says that he's the one that did it, or he was at fault of it, and so he talks to the doctor about it, and we slowly go over the story of the father and his 3 kids. This one was my favorites. I really thought it was pretty eerie. I think that the ending, or what happened to the 3rd child, was like, it makes me wonder, like, is there even a boogeyman? Is Lester Billings the person that's been doing this, but he just doesn't remember? I don't know. It's just really interesting to me. This is one of my favorites, and I've heard a lot of people say the same thing. This was really good. Number 7 is Gray Matter. This one, it also is very strange. I think I heard people talk about how Stephen King went through a phase of addiction. I'm not sure if he had an addiction to alcohol, but this story is kind of just the ramifications or just the story behind alcoholism. This is about a father who's constantly drinking beer, and his son, it's his son's point of view talking about what's happening to his father over time. And it pretty much, he becomes like this gray matter, literally. I can imagine that people that understand alcoholism of parents would understand maybe a bit more when it comes to the message behind this. I did think it was interesting. I think that there was a lot of meaning behind it, but like I said, it's just weird. I mean, it's Stephen King. This is how he writes his horror. So, possible unpopular opinion for the next one. The 8th one was Battleground. This is a story about Mr. Ranshaw, and he is a hitman or like assassin or something of the sort, and he has a hit on a toy maker. I don't know if he already, fulfilled it or if he's going to, but he gets a package in the mail from this toy maker and opens it kind of, he opens it a little bit, he realizes what it is, and the toys come to life, and it's literally just an army of men trying to attack Mr. Renshaw. It is so strange. I understand why people like it. I like the concept behind it, but I was reading it and I was just like, what am I reading right now? As I was reading it, it reminded me of a childhood thing that I wish I didn't remember, and that is, I think it's Small Soldiers, the movie where like action figures come to life, and that movie kind of scared me. I think a lot of 90s movies were just creepy, like E.T., Bug's Life, James and the Giant Peach. Like, these movies terrified me as a kid, and I loved watching them. Story 9 is Trucks. I don't even have to read my notes because I remember this. It's just literally a story about trucks coming to life and being possessed, and it's pretty similar to the Iron one. It's just like a truck stop, and there's a bunch of characters that are stuck in the truck stop trying to get away from these trucks, and they're just staying indoors. It's like post-apocalyptic truck murdering trucks. I don't understand. I don't know if it's supposed to be scary. I don't know if it's supposed to be like, is it supposed to be funny? This was kind of funny to me. I was kind of laughing at it, especially like the ending. Maybe certain Stephen King things aren't for me. I think this is a fun short story collection. I had fun with it, so I don't really, nothing against any of these stories. I had a fun time with them. This one just made me laugh because it was so strange. The 10th story, halfway through, we are at Sometimes They Come Back. This is of a teacher, Jim Norman, and he goes to a new school after an incident that happens. When he goes to the school, within his students, he starts to see kind of people from his past that become to haunt him. There's like demonic parts to this. Students in his class are starting to die mysteriously. I actually did like this. I heard people say this is not very memorable, and I just heard mixed things about this. I did like it. I feel like a lot of other stories kind of upped this one though, so it wasn't the most memorable, but I still liked it. Strawberry Springs is the 11th story. It's kind of circling around a campus, so like a school campus, and people are starting to just mysteriously be killed in very similar ways. They're trying to figure out who it is and why it's happening. There was a very, very subtle hint towards something in the beginning of the book, and I think, I can't say anything, but I feel like that might be kind of showing what this is about very vaguely. This one I feel like is a little bit more forgettable. I actually don't really remember a lot about it. Another favorite of mine, this is number 12, The Ledge. This one is one of my favorite stories. Probably maybe my favorite. This is a story about a man who has an affair with another person's wife, and he meets up with the husband that he's having the affair of the wife on, and the husband of the wife pretty much negotiate something with him. Either he walks on the ledge of his 43-story apartment penthouse and he walks the entire ledge all the way around, or says either I'm going to pretty much put you in jail by planting something on you, or you can get some amount of money and you can walk around the ledge of my apartment building. So he has to walk along a 5-inch, around like this much, 5-inch ledge that goes along the entire circumference of his apartment. This one was really cool. It had like a bunch of anxiety of the entire time, like, is he gonna fall? Is he gonna fall? I think the ending was also very satisfying, I guess. I mean, it does end off a little bit open-ended, but I did like the ending. It just felt good. It just felt good. Following that one, we get the weirdest one in the entire book, and that is story 13, The Lawnmower Man. This is the weirdest one, and honestly, I also feel like this is like a 1-star, but also a 5. I can't explain this one. You have to read it to understand it. This is about a main character, Harold, and he wants his lawn to be mowed. So he looks in a newspaper, he gets a clipping that says that they do their surface, and so on and so forth. Someone comes over to mow his lawn, he's a bit weird, and he decides, okay, sure, just get it over with. And then things happen, and I don't even know how to explain it without spoiling it, I guess. There is some like Greek mythos in this, surprisingly, not very like heavily, but it's like plants sprinkled in there. This is just weird, okay? This is a little bit strange. I'm gonna talk about what it's about a little bit, so if you don't want to be spoiled on like the weirdness part, just don't look at this. It's not gonna be complete spoilers, but still, it's kind of like the gist of it. So the guy that's mowing the lawn is a man in overalls, and he has this lawnmower that mows by itself. I don't know if it's like a possessed lawnmower, I don't know if it's like a magical lawnmower, but it moves on its own, it cuts the grass on its own. And then while the lawnmower is mowing the grass, this man gets butt naked and he crawls behind the lawnmower and eats the clippings and anything else that gets into the lawnmower. He just eats it. And it's kind of traumatizing in a way. Like, if I think about it, like the way he's just crawling behind it, it's kind of terrifying, honestly. So this is actually a good, like, weird horror, I guess. But it was strange. More things happened. That wasn't like the entire thing. But I'm just like, what is going on with this story? When I first read it, I'm like, this is horrible. 1 star, horrible. And then I thought about it and I'm like, you know what? 4 stars. Strangest story in the entire thing, but oddly kind of good in a weird way. Number 14 is Quitters Inc. This is another one of my favorites. It might actually be a top contender with my favorite. This is a story about Morrison. He is a man that smoked his entire life. He meets up with a friend that's also been the same, but he says that his friend says that he had actually quit smoking, and Morrison wondered how, because they both have always smoked. And then he says, like, I went to this program called Quitters Inc. I can't tell you what happens because it's like part of the program. We sign a paper, we can't tell you exactly how they do it, but join the program, you will 100%, almost 100, I think it's like 90 or like 85% success rate. And so Morrison goes into his room with a man. He says, do you want to join the program, sign this contract? And he does. And then things start to ensue, and it is it's pretty morbid in a sense. This is very like Black Mirror episode. I love Black Mirror. It is amazing. It's like a psychological sci-fi horror-esque kind of thing. And this story is very similar, reminiscent of that. Number 15 is I Know What You Need. This was a character of Edward Jackson and Elizabeth. Elizabeth is the main character. This is actually the only one I think with like a female protagonist, or mainly a female main character. Elizabeth meets a guy named Ed, and she slowly kind of forms a relationship with him and starts to have feelings for him, but her friend is kind of skeptical about him. Something seems a bit strange. He's not really her type, and things just keep happening around them, which it just feels strange. I liked this. I feel like it could have been stronger in some regards, but I did like it. I liked some parts of it more than others. I think I liked the beginning a little bit more, the lead up, but it was fine. It was fine. I think it was a good story. It was also kind of forgettable as well. 16 is a very popular Stephen King short story, and that is Children of the Corn. I actually don't know anything about Children of the Corn. I never watched the movie. I probably should. This is about a couple, Bert and Vicky, who are kind of like on a road trip or just driving somewhere, and they're going through this area with just cornfields galore. I like a discussion, maybe even an argument in their car, and something, I won't say what, but goes in front of the car and they hit them and they like start to panic. They try to find something nearby for help, and they end up at a church. And essentially this is just a story about a whole town full of cornfields and that's all it is, and all it is filled with children, which is terrifying on its own. Like, children are terrifying, so this is already scary by itself. It actually has a really cool concept, and I kind of like it. It's also a little bit odd, but I really did enjoy this. I'm kind of interested now maybe in the movie. I might want to watch more Stephen King movies because this is pretty cool. Almost done. We're at 17. This is the last rung on the ladder. This is about Larry and Katrina, brother and sister. It's following Larry, who's talking about how him and his sister used to go into a barn. They used to go up this rickety ladder that their parents always told them not to go on and jump into this large bale of hay. And they would constantly do this for maybe a few years as they were growing up. They were going into it, and how he kind of noticed that this ladder it's deteriorating, it's old. He kind of like figures it's a little bit dangerous to be going on it, but they still go on it. And something happens with the ladder. It also kind of goes in conjunction or ties to something that happens when they're adults, because this is following him talking about his childhood. And it's actually kind of morbid what happens at the end of this book. Like, it's very subtle, and some people might not like it, but I actually did enjoy it because of the comparison and contrast. And so I personally liked that. I liked the little psychological horror that added to this. 18 is The Man Who Loved Flowers. This one was fine. It's just about a man who goes and buys a bunch of flowers for Norma, who is the person that he loves. And at the end, it just takes a turn. And I'm not going to talk really much about it because this is a really, really short one. It's a little over 10 pages, and I don't want to spoil anything, but this one was fine. I liked the ending a little bit, but other than the ending, I'm just like, oh, okay. It's a little bit forgettable. 19 is One for the Road. This is actually a sequel to Salem's Lot, I believe, or at least around the same time of Salem's Lot. So Salem's Lot is about like vampires. This is kind of like throughout either the aftermath or sometime in between that period of time. It's about this man that walks up into this store and says that he needs help, that his wife and daughter are snowed in a car not too far from here, and he needs help with getting them out and rescued because they're stranded in their car and it's freezing outside. So of course he needs help with that. We find out that they are stranded in Salem's Lot, which makes it a little bit more scary than originally thought. So they all go out to the car to see if they're okay, if they're alive, and things happen from there. I did like it a lot. I actually prefer this more than Jerusalem's Lot personally. To be fair, I didn't love Salem's Lot. I thought it was a good book, but I wasn't head over heels for it, so I'm not surprised I didn't absolutely love this or Jerusalem's Lot, but I still thought it was a really good short story. Last one, the 20th one, is The Woman in the Room. Now, The Woman in the Room is about a man who has a very sick mother. She's in a hospital bed. I think she has a form of cancer that has spread pretty badly, and it just kind of deals with the moral dilemma of a few things. I don't want to say much about it. I heard a few people also saying that they didn't like this book that much. It was a bit weird to end the collection off with this one, but I don't think it was a very, very bad idea. I felt that this was kind of just a sad story. It's very, very based off of reality, which I guess could be the reason why it's sad. It was good. I just don't think it was the best thing I read, but I think it actually is pretty impactful. I think that's why it was a really good end to the short story collection. It was impactful in my opinion, at least. But yeah, that is the entire short story collection of Stephen King's novel Night Shift. I enjoyed it a lot. I do want to read every single one of his books chronologically, and the next one is The Long Walk, and I'm so excited about it. I've been wanting to read that for so long now. It seems like something that's right up my alley. Had a good time with this short story collection. I've already read two. I read Full Dark No Stars and I read this one. I think I personally like Full Dark No Stars a little bit more. I think I had less stories, but they hit a lot harder. I will hopefully get to the next book at The Long Walk soon, and I had such a good time with this. Looking forward to reviewing and talking about those books in the future. So thank you again, as usual, for watching. I appreciate you all so very, very much. I hope you have a great day, I hope you have a great reading month, and I hope to see you all soon. Goodbye.